Okay, welcome to the first Cofiwch Dryweryn map update video for 2023. I think the last one of these we did was back in November 2022, so it's been some time. It's been about 9 months since I've done a formal update of the map, and this video just covers some of those updates. Now, honestly, it's been quiet. There's a good reason why I haven't updated this in 9 months, because really there hasn't been that much in the way of change. In all of that time, there is one new example, and it's an example that has got a fair bit of media attention, so I thought it was timely to update the map and give some more information about the way in which this map has evolved. But at the same time, there aren't that many recorded examples that have been removed or lost either. I've got a few to draw attention to today. I suspect there are probably significantly more which have been lost, which we haven't necessarily been able to update. And as ever, if you're watching this video, and if you see a new example of a Cofiwch Dryweryn mural, or if you know of one that is recorded on this map but has subsequently disappeared, been defaced, been changed, whatever, please do let me know. Get in touch, stick something in the comments, and we'll get this map updated again. But generally speaking, it's gone pretty quiet. And every time I do one of these videos, I feel like I'm adding to them a little bit less, and the space in between doing the videos is getting larger. So is that to say that the Cofiwch Dryweryn mural movement is dead? Is it finished? Not necessarily, but it's definitely quiet. There are lots of examples which remain completely untouched. So to give you a bit of context, I live not that far from Aberteifi, Cardigan on this map. This example, which I really need to do an update for, is still there. It now has a black surround. I need to get an updated picture of this. I was in Aberteifi last week, and there's this really distinctive black frame to it. So, you know, lots of these examples are still there. They're untouched, but they're changing. So, in many respects, it's part of a sort of a static landscape. Just to be aware, we are now at 157 Cofiwch Dryweryn examples. That doesn't necessarily mean there are 157 which exist today, but in terms of the total amount that we've recorded, it stands at 157. Okay, so we've got examples like that which are still there and are being added to. Now that suggests to me that when that wall was being repainted or touched up, repaired, however you want to think about it, the mural itself was still respected, safeguarded, and I think the black background is more an enhancement to the mural rather than changing it or compromising it. So this is why we keep monitoring and try to keep updating the map as often as possible, because the murals will change. Doesn't mean they're disappearing, but they will change in appearance over time. So that's what I need to get a photograph of. Again, if you're seeing the video and you've got a photograph of it, send it to me. Save me a trip, although I'll probably go to Crust and Cardigan fairly soon anyway. But if we go a little bit south in this map, let's go south and southwest. I'm going to scale out a little bit. One of the more notable changes on the map are two examples which have been lost. So let's start there. Let's start with narratives of removal before we get into the exciting new addition, which is a little further west of where we are on the map at the moment. Let's go out to the coast, and we're going to zoom into Trefyn right now. The ship-in. The ship-in used to have a beautiful, really big example on the wall to its... Can you call it a garden if it doesn't have grass? You know what I mean. Somewhere where you can drink out the back of the pub. This example has been painted over. Now, in terms of the timescale, this isn't particularly new. I think this one disappears somewhere around April. So it's not recent that it's gone, but it's worth updating the fact that it is no longer there. So it turns to black on the map and has been painted over. Now, I've been told by one of the people who I rely upon for updating the map, who's traveling around the landscape, that this relates to new owners. Now, I don't know the political persuasion of those owners. I know, for instance, that they did coverage of the coronation, and they're not Welsh exclusive in terms of their sports broadcasting. So I don't know. I don't want to delve or push too hard on this, but perhaps the change in management is less compatible with what Cofiwch Dryweryn as a movement is associated with. I don't know. This is pure speculation. And if I had the time, I'll just go down to the pub and ask them. If you're watching, let me know. Let me know why you got rid of the mural. It would be interesting. But shorthand version, that's gone. Okay. Now, what has also gone, if we get rid of this, let's move back through the landscape. Where were we? Where's it gone? All the examples have gone now. Okay, I'm going to just do this by going through the listings, and we're going to go to Eglwys Ur. There we go. It's back. There we go. All the entries are back. So we were just out here in the west, and now we're going to zoom in to Eglwys Ur. Now, anybody travelling on the route down from, say, Cardigan across to Newport will probably be familiar with this example. A fairly small one, just on the side of a school. And it's been there for quite some time. Let's pull up some of the details. Right, so this was first recorded back, this was this month, back in 2019. So it stood for 4 years on the side of the wall, but now if you're driving past, that has been painted over. And that entire building has been painted over. So I think there's an interesting question mark on this one to say, is this just general repairs and maintenance to a building that needed a facelift, lick of paint, and you're going to see the mural return in the new school year, in the new teaching year? Possible. Again, I don't know. I have no insight or relationship with the school, but what I can tell you is that that example is gone, and it was one of the oldest mural responses, let's say, to the initial moment when the Llanrystud wall was knocked down in 2019. So this appeared in that initial flurry of murals and has now gone. It's interesting, given its space in the landscape. There are other examples which do survive. I mean, some of these are a little bit knackered. What's the one I was thinking of? This one, the one at Newport Beach here. That's my daughter in front of that picture. We should do an update in terms of her relative height now. But I do say in that one, the condition is poor. It was heavily weathered. Now, I haven't been down to Newport Beach since the tourist season started, because why would you? So I'm probably physically going to get down there come the autumn and give an update. I wouldn't be surprised if that's almost completely gone by now, but it was certainly weathering. But in that instance, that was sort of, it was weathering, right? It was just a natural process to record its decline. I don't know about any of these other examples. No, we haven't got updates on these. Actually, this one near Nevern, this one is actually, I would say, in a poor condition. I've seen a photographic update on this. It's still there, but it's kind of mossing over a little bit. So I think what we're seeing is just the sort of the aging of the process. So we're 4 years on from when the Cofiwch Dryweryn murals first sort of exploded across Wales. And we're just to that point now where perhaps the momentum is gone. The power of the movement, or sort of the power of producing new murals, has been compromised to some extent, as often happens with protest movements. It may well have served its purpose. And that's why you're starting to see some examples, I stress some examples, start to go to a point of decline. However, there are some examples which are in the process of being repaired. So I want to go to Treorchy. I want to go to, there we go, Treorchy, down to Treorchy, and the Black Mountain car park. Now, I don't have a photograph of the most, or do I? No, I have added one. Yeah, sorry. Here it is. We've just added this picture from the Cofiwch Dryweryn Facebook group, which, if you have an enthusiasm for the murals, that's a great place to go to see updates and photographs of people travelling through the landscape of Wales and recording the examples that are out there. But as you can see, this was quite an important process of renewal if you like. And a small number of the murals have been renewed. You're seeing this process of repainting them, touching them up, improving them. And you can see how it, you can see how it was looking. It was quite bare in places on the mural, so a bit of wear and tear there, some of the paint flaking, and this has been renewed. And this was one of those things that was interesting about the mural, as to ask, are we going to see a process of renewal? Is that how it's going to be? Is there going to be sort of an almost an annual pilgrimage to some of these monuments to repair, replace those that have been lost, repaint them? And of course that asks the question, is the painting of the mural the thing that really matters? The fact that so many of them are in decline and disappear relatively soon after they're painted would suggest that it's the painting of the mural that's the thing that really matters, more so than keeping it, maintaining it, repairing it, whatever. And yet there are some examples, such as this one in Treorchy, where we are seeing examples that are being maintained and repaired. And of course this all ties into the Yes Cymru community in Treorchy, the flag of Glyndŵr flying as well. You're left as to no illusions as to what is the political motivation underpinning this, and that's completely fine and exactly as you would expect. But it's just highlighting that some, emphasis on some, not many, but some are being refreshed and renewed. So that's sort of the landscape more generally in relation to Cofiwch Dryweryn. That, let's just hit a random one to reset the map. Generally speaking, we are dealing with a process of gradual decline and partial renewal. Okay, that's the norm that we're seeing with these murals across Wales. But if we were to cast the net a little bit wider, there are every now and again new examples that are cropping up. And you may well have seen this reported on things like Nation Cymru. You've really got to zoom out for this one. Okay, so we're going to leave Wales and we're going to head out west. And what I'm going to show you is what is actually now, with this example in the Falklands, I don't know if it's still there, but what we now have is officially a new furthest west example of Cofiwch Dryweryn. The previous claimants for this were in Chicago, so we had two examples here, one in a pub, one on the side of a house. This is a lovely example, very nicely painted, courtesy of the Chicago Taffia Welsh Society, who've always been quite proactive in terms of promoting things like Cofiwch Dryweryn and the Mary Lloyd. But there's another example, which is further west, and it's here, and we are going to Nebraska for this one. So we're going to zoom right away and we'll click on this one. This is in the Great Plains Welsh Heritage Centre. Now we're going to bring the image up. This one is taken from Nation Cymru, so that should be familiar. Bring the mouse in here. That's where the example is, on the side of, we say Heritage Centre, museum, same sort of thing pretty much. A recent addition, we've got the date for this as being the 18th of this month. I don't know if it was a little bit early, but we're going to say that as the first time that I was aware of it. That's the first time I've recorded and added that example to the map. Now, the thing that I suppose which is interesting about this example, if we just leave it up for now, the Heritage Centre here has also in recent years been proactive in terms of echoing other revivals, other movements within Welsh culture and heritage. That is to say that we've seen a Mary Lloyd, and I always hesitate about calling it a revival because of course there is no historical template for a Mary Lloyd in Nebraska, right? So it's not a revival, it's a new addition to the cultural landscape, but nonetheless it's a revival of a Welsh tradition. Yes, let's accept it on those terms. So this museum or heritage centre has been engaged in that sort of process already. So it's not a huge surprise to see a Cofiwch Dryweryn mural appear on the side of it, but nonetheless, it's there, and it's a new addition, and a new addition for 2023. The person who painted this was originally from Newport before migrating out to the States, following the path of all the other Welsh people who migrated out to Nebraska back in the day. So there is a Welsh cultural migratory narrative that is linked to that part of the States. That obviously makes sense. You see this in other parts of the landscape as well. This is the Ohio example. So now we have 4 examples in the States. And this example, not that I mark them in terms of the sequence that they appear, but if anyone's keeping track, this would be the 157th example of a Cofiwch Dryweryn mural appearing on our list and being discussed in these videos. So what do we make of this? Is this a cultural lag? I mean, if you think back to source, we haven't had a new Cofiwch Dryweryn mural in Wales for some time now. The culture is still there. Cofiwch Dryweryn in terms of, car stickers and tea towels and magnets, that sort of cultural expression of Cofiwch Dryweryn and it being on banners and t-shirts and appearing at Yes Cymru marches. It's still there. The power of the slogan hasn't disappeared, but the veracity with which the murals appear has pretty much gone flat. You're not seeing new examples, but there is this trickle effect, and gradually we're seeing it move across. Now, with the Mary Lloyd revival that we saw in a Welsh context, it took many years for it to appear in the States. So the Nebraska example of the Mary Lloyd appears for the first time, I think, in 2019. Now, the revivals for the Mary Lloyd more generally you can put at the end of the 20th century. Think late 1990s for sort of the spread of the revival. I appreciate there were pockets, 4 or 5 examples that were maintained before that point. But you get to the end of the 90s and there's this sudden explosion of Mary Lloyds popping up all over the place and going into the early noughties. It takes the better part of 20 years for the Mary Lloyd revival to start spreading out across the United States. So is there a similar process here? Is it taking a few years for the Cofiwch Dryweryn mural movement to sort of catch up in the States where there are Welsh communities? And it's obviously not as simple as that because you have these other examples which were much earlier. In terms of time scale, let's just double check. These were relatively early. Date produced 2019 for the Chicago pub example, then 2020, and then down in Ohio. This was 2019 as well, so they're all sort of the same sort of time period. So that theory doesn't exactly hold true. But the question is, what's going to happen on the next step? Is it now more likely that we're going to see Cofiwch Dryweryn mural examples appear in the States than it is to see them in Wales? And I don't know. That's why we keep the map. That's why we monitor this. We keep it up to date, and we're always looking for your feedback and observations to make sure that this body of information, this data set about an incredibly important, creative, expressive form of Welsh nationalism is documented and is kept accurate. On that, that's pretty much the video, because we only really have 4 examples to talk about. As ever, if you have information about Cofiwch Dryweryn murals, if you've got one that you've seen up on the side of a mountain that I've missed, let me know. If you're looking at this map, and I know many of you do, and I get lots of feedback from people who are like giving me little nudges as this pin drop isn't in quite the right place, so we shunt it over, we make sure the details are as accurate as possible. This map is essentially crowdsourced. I am dependent on you, the wider community, to keep it up to date. So please, any information, share it with me. And we're not doing this to fish for likes and subscriptions, but if you want to do that, you can do that. It's not all Cofiwch Dryweryn. Look at some of the other videos. It has very little to do with Welsh heritage at all, but every now and again, it's in there. On that, my friends, we'll leave it there. But yeah, give me thoughts, give me more examples, help me keep this map up to date. And, the more active the Cofiwch Dryweryn mural movement is, the more regularly I'm going to be updating this. So any information is very greatly appreciated. On that, I'll say goodbye, and I don't know. It's been 9 months since I last did one of these videos. Maybe I'll see you again in 2024, unless there's a sudden surge of murals between now and Christmas, which would be exciting. It would keep me busy. Let's see what happens. If not, catch you in 2024.